We always start by saying welcome to Plugged In Chatham-Kent, your business podcast. I'm Andrew, work in economic development. Today we are talking about, this is part two of a session. Last week I chatted with local print media. Today we're talking with local radio experts. And you're an expert, okay? Listen,
okay.
You get to me. Trust me. Because one of the things that we've chatted about, and we have conversations with businesses, small businesses, large businesses, manufacturers, is the fact that we know that having an engaged local media is essential. It's critical to any community, and we want to talk about some of the big. Last week we talked about some of the big shifts that have happened over the years in terms of print. They've had many disruptions. There was this little thing that happened to them at one point called radio. Then there was this other one called television, and then the internet. Little changes to their environment, and so we chat about those sort of things. And this week I thought, well, let's chat about radio because you've had a few disruptions. You've caused a few disruptions. You've taken advantage of definitely the different technologies that have been out there. So I'm going to go around the table. I'll let you introduce yourself. So if you want to start.
Sure. My name is Greg Hetherington. I'm from CKXS Radio. We broadcast out of Wallsburg, servicing Chatham-Kent, a little bit of Lambton. And I'm the general manager, part owner of the station. I also do the morning show. I put the garbage out on Tuesdays and Fridays. A little bit of sales here and there. Some marketing. Pretty much. As much as I possibly can.
Other duties is assigned by Robin, right?
Yeah, whatever needs to be done. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer at 99.1 FM.
Perfect. And as well, John.
Walter Ploegman. I'm the director of operations for CKSY, CFCO, and Cool FM. I don't take out the garbage, but I do windows.
Oh, really?
I handle and oversee operations and have been with the Chatham stations for just over 30 years.
And when we were chatting earlier, you said you're covering Chatham-Kent and surrounding areas as well. So
well, in the overall group with a group of Blackburn Radio stations, gotcha. We have 14 radio stations, but I'm fortunate enough to be home here in Chatham-Kent and happy to be here.
Well, thank you both for joining me today.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, of course. As I said, I am a huge fan of local media. I'm a huge fan of other media as well, just in case anybody's right there writing me angry letters at a national point. But I really appreciate being here.
So, yeah, thanks.
First one I'm going to start off with, I'll start with you, Walter, is asking a bit about what your vision or the vision of Blackburn is, and some of the goals in terms of local media. What does Blackburn, what do your station think about in terms of local media? What are your goals for that?
Well, local media is extremely important. It's constantly evolving. The focus of our stations, CFCO, CKSY, and Cool, are about informing, engaging, entertaining. There's an entertainment portion to what we do, and making sure that we're engaged in the community and making sure that we're informed in the community, and that is the strategy from a audience building perspective. The other side of that is to build a relationship with listeners in the community that you can basically partner with local advertisers and businesses to be able to help leverage that relationship with the listeners to a relationship with the advertisers and basically help them succeed in their plans and their goals and their strategies for their businesses.
All right, very good. Greg, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're cut from the same cloth. We believe in the same thing, being locally involved, local. So our goal too is to focus on what's happening in the community on a regular basis. So I would rather hear about Brittany Johnson, who scored 3 goals last night in a soccer game, than Taylor Swift and what she's doing in Hollywood. So we really try to focus our content at what's happening locally. And you can attract listeners that way. I mean, the more they hear about local things that are happening in the community, the more they hear you talking about things that you were just at, and then they tune in the next day to hear you talk about that, then they catch on. They're thinking, oh, I just saw the radio station vehicle at this location. I bet you they're going to tell me something about it on their station either right now or tomorrow morning. So those are keys to kind of get people engaged in what you're doing. I mean, we have a very tough job. I mean, we're a local radio station competing not just against each other, but I think between Walter and I think we try to engage people to listen to local radio. Mm-hmm. We don't want them to listen to Detroit. We don't want them to listen to London. Well, I guess you got stations there, so you wouldn't mind that too much. But I mean, so we're fighting Detroit. I mean, we sit in this parking lot here. You can pick up 100 radio stations on your dial. So how do we get people engaged to listen to local radio? We got to give them local content. So we make sure our focus is always local. You know, connecting to the community constantly, going to special events. You know, touching base with people. Not, you know, if it's a message on social media, reaching back to them, touching them about social media, and then talking about that on the radio so we can combine both mediums together.
You bring up a really interesting point, is that especially on all of the websites that you've collectively own work with, you have online streaming on both of your. I say both of your sites. There are many different sites that you're involved in. How do you find that in terms of reaching people who maybe are outside of the broadcast area, or there are people doing it inside the broadcast area? How vital is that for you? Yeah,
it's huge, right? I mean, so now not only can you just listen to it on an FM dial, so 99.1 or 94.3, you're not just listening on a dial on your radio set. Now you can listen to us on your phone, on your computer. Even better, now we can take that person or we can go with that person on their vacation. Mm-hmm. So now so many more people listen to us, same thing, right in Florida, or they're on vacation. They want to find out what's happening back home. So they can just turn on the radio and there's all the information that's happening locally. So the way that radio has evolved along with all the technology and the changes that have happened has probably been the best of all the mediums. I mean, we saw what was happening with the internet, now we can stream. We saw how popular phones were, now you can get an app and listen to us on the phone. Now we saw what's happening with Alexa and Google Play and all of those things. Yeah. And now Alexa, play 99.1 CKXS. Now that's available. So
I'm so sorry for everyone's
that's going off everywhere.
Alexa who just turned on
purpose.
On purpose. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes even further in that radio. I think has really done a good evolution with new technologies compared to some other mediums. Mm-hmm. I think the disruption has been a lot greater for others. I mean, local radio continues to be very successful with regard to engagement with the community. And Greg's right. I mean, it's about local. I mean, the music that we play can be heard from 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 different sources around the world. Mm-hmm. And it's the local content that really keeps people engaged and listening to you. And you're right. I don't know that we get people that are listening online. The majority tend to be listening online because they're connected to the community somehow, some way. There's a reason for them to be listening. Vacationing in Florida, they're not missing the news. They're not missing what's happening and keeping up with things. So
no, that makes a lot of sense. It was a bit of a loaded question because I use that service when I'm traveling, and I absolutely know that it's vital. I find it really essential to be able to plug in to hear what's going on. Partly because I'm a news junkie, but also because I want to hear what's going on in my community.
Right.
So, on the side of, I'm going to jump into a more serious type of question, which is, the world's in this now 24-hour cycle. At least some of the world's in 24-hour cycle of always on news, always happening. The bigger question that I've come across is how are you ensuring integrity in the news that you're working on, you're creating, you're putting out there? Integrity in the news, integrity in the advertising, integrity in the station in general. How are you doing that? Who wants to pick up on that one? Sorry, I know it's a bigger question. It's very challenging.
Well, I can. I'll start. Fact checking is key. So I'm very proud of our news team that it's not just about being first; it's about being right. And if you can be right and first, then that's a win. Not just being first is important. You've got to be right. And I mean, we've seen so many things that have gone wrong. I think of the tragedy with Kobe Bryant and what was said at the beginning there was tragic that families had to hear it that way and were confused in what was happening. Another example nationally would be the NASCAR race, the Daytona 500. And I mean, nothing was coming out of ESPN, nothing was coming out of NASCAR until they had the absolute facts right. And that's a very big moment for media. They weren't all about being first. So we try the same thing. I mean, it's a battle. We want people's ears first. We want them to know that if you listen to our station, that we are up to date, we're connected, we know what's going on. So that's really important. But at the same time, you just can't lead with something because you think that's what's happening. Right? I mean, you've got to fact check. You've got to make sure you're getting all the details before you release it to the community. And that's what we try to do.
Yeah, I'm same with us. I mean, Greg's correct. I mean, media with integrity is not about being first; it's about being right. And same situation in our newsroom is about accuracy, verifying things before we go on air and talk about things, because that can go the wrong way very quickly. And the integrity is extremely important. I think it's also making sure that you instill that in the staff that you have, so that they understand clearly, because you deal with I call it a kaleidoscope of personalities in radio. You want to make sure that they understand what the strategy is, what the integrity of the news is all about, and that bleeds into the quality of programming that we do at the local level, and also with regard to our advertisers, and what's said and what's stated, and fact checking there. I mean, even creative, as you know, creative also fact checks on commercials when we have clients that do things. So it's happening in more than just news. When you talk about a 24-hour news cycle, I think technology allows us nowadays to be able to be connected 24 hours a day. And I mean, we've worked hard to make sure that we have that coverage and that connectivity, so that way you can depend on your local media, your local radio stations, to be able to have that information. And when you hear it, you can believe it, because you know that it's been fact checked and it's accurate. And again, that's integrity in the product.
Thinking about your advertisers, so you mentioned fact checking, that type of ad. How does that work? Because I think on both of your sites you're running things such as Google plugged in ads, that type of thing. Maybe I don't want to get too techy on this, but how is it working in that sort of an online component? Are you getting feedback? Do you have people reporting back to you on ads that may be a little off? I know Facebook is sort of doing that now because, they kind of had to, legislated. Are you finding there's any online challenges? That's where I'm going with this.
I think there's always online challenges, and it's always being diligent with it. I know that from the standpoint, we use Google AdSense, our AdWords a little bit. That's not predominantly what we do with our sites. There's some of that happens.
I just put that as an example.
Right. But you would set up the parameters there of what you don't want on your site, what can't happen on your site. And we get feedback from our audience all the time. They'll say, I saw this, or I saw that, or the ones that we will get is, I saw this ad and I haven't seen it again. Can you please tell me where I can get a hold of this? And it's like, okay, where was it? When was it? And with Google, it's almost impossible to find in that situation. Yeah.
And Greg, people in Walsburg must never give you any feedback on anything you do.
We're very passionate. Yes, and we will tell you exactly how we feel. And that's great, and that's exactly what we want to see happen, right? So in the same way, what Walter said is that we have somebody that's always monitoring what you do. Like anything, if you're a small business, you're always monitoring what your staff is doing. If you're selling Tim Hortons coffee, you're making sure that it's all done properly. You're back checking as well as an owner or a manager. And the same thing goes with radio. I mean, we're making sure that the right content is there, that we have all these fail safes that we can follow up on, that to make sure that things are shown properly if it's a website, or said properly if it's a radio ad. So I think it's just doing your due diligence, making sure that you're following up on anything that if it's going to be attached to your website or if it's going to be on your radio station, you better make sure that it's right. And that falls on us. It's not, we can't blame someone and say, oh, the client did this. Well, then why didn't we double check that to make sure that we had the right information, right? So back checking again.
So in the past, I don't know, year, 2, 3 years, has there been any changes to the way you organize your business model? I'll start with, who would like to take that one to start with?
Yeah, well, business model and just how to sell marketing, or in radio, or what do you mean?
You know what? Let's start with the idea of how you've organized the radio station itself.
Sure. So in the last 2 or 3 years, radio-wise, not much has really changed with radio. I mean, the progression that we've seen along the way. So I went from playing 45s, we went from that to playing CDs, and always having somebody in studio all the time to make that happen. There was never any time that there wasn't somebody in the building. And then that moved to computer automation. Automation allowed us to utilize voices. People could record in advance, still make it sound like it's happening right now, but then utilize multitasking, so I could voice something during a 1-hour broadcast, and then I could step aside and go do some managerial stuff. So that's changed probably in the last 15 years, that's been big. In the last 3 years with radio, probably the biggest part of organizing or managing what's on the air has stayed pretty constant, I think, for the last 3 years. Probably the only thing that we've seen a lot different now is how people listen with, Alexa and those sort of things. But as for the programming side, I don't know. I think it's stayed pretty constant the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, from a radio standpoint, I think there's been with digital. I think what you have to look at is it's not radio and digital. It's all
digital.
Digital.
Yeah.
It is. So when you've got an announcer in the studio, yes, we have the technology. You're the same situation. You have the technology to be able to record. But at the same time, you're working on content for social media. You're working on content for the website. So these announcers 15 years ago, when Greg and I were younger, we were sitting in there going, what are we talking about next after the song? The announcers nowadays, I think, are doing much more, okay, I'm done doing that break. Now I'm doing this content. Now I'm doing that content. And what I'm uploading here, I'm actually going to talk about in 15 minutes on my next break here. So there's a lot more content generation, I think, that's happening on the radio side of things. And I think sometimes people look at it and go, well, there's radio and then there's digital. Well, no, it's all engagement with the community. It's all engaging at the local level. So really it's we can call it radio because we're still on the traditional 94.3, 99.1, we're 95.1, all of that stuff. We're still in the FM.
Are you working at my radio station now?
Well, I want to make sure. This is about radio, and this is about
agreed.
what you do and what we do is all about building up the positive aspects of the community and reflecting the cultural aspects of the community and really broadcasting that out to the community. And
you're right, because that's a good point, because so I do an on-air shift, and when I'm doing that on-air shift, it's not just about talking to the person, but while that song is playing, then I grab my phone and then I go on Twitter and post something that we've just either talked about or we're about to talk about. It could be Facebook that I'm posting a photo from something that we're about to talk about or that happened last night. So you're doing all those other little pieces from Instagram and all of those things while you're on the air. So you've got a bunch of other things.
So
that you're
wherever
doing.
you look or listen or sense something, wherever you're turning, because in this day and age, your attention span is like, so you're not just hearing radio on radio, you're seeing radio. You're hearing radio here. You're engaging with the local radio station on so many different levels, and that's what you do. Exactly what Greg said, and exactly how I stated it. Yeah, between the songs, you're not just sitting there. You're engaging at some level on some other form of contact where the listener is, where your listeners
So this brings up a challenge that we've encountered here and with people that we chatted with in the business community, which is, so as you just pointed out, you're posting things to your profile on social media. You've said, they're posting to possibly theirs or your corporate, or where do you draw the line between what content someone will post on their on-air personality versus, say, a corporate social media? Because there's a bit of that. There's so much crossover. We're seeing so many people come to us and say, should I have just a business profile, or should I have my personal profile? Should they be connected? How do I decide this in the world? It's becoming a real challenge to business people around the area to say, everybody knows who I am, but I want to draw a line somewhere to make it me still have a personal life. But if I do that, I'm losing sales. Have you come across a good solution for that? And if you haven't, that's okay. Everyone's, I think, in this challenging change, right?
I'd say it's on a case-by-case basis. I don't
Okay.
think there's a carte blanche, this is what I do here and that's what I do there. I think business and personal, when it comes to small business, is blurring a
Yes.
lot more. I think when they look towards your brand and they look at you, they look to see some of that on your brand as well as you personally. So I don't know, from our standpoint, I don't know that we have policies in place as to what you should or shouldn't post, but we encourage our staff to post on their own personals as well, and you'll see them retweet some of the stuff that goes on the station stuff, from corporate stuff, if you will.
Yeah, well, I combine them. So, which may be right or wrong, I'm not sure yet. My wife wishes probably that I didn't, but so a lot of the times, I do more casual kind of cheeky things that would be on my personal Facebook. Things that are more business oriented. I might post those on mine and share it on the CKXS Facebook page. So I do a little bit of that. My Twitter account is Greg CKXS, so you can see where I'm going with that. This is who I am in the radio station, and so that usually will have a lot of what's going on in the community. So that's really community minded, and then a lot of the times the station Twitter account will repost what I do on Twitter. And I mean, it just gives us so many people to see and kind of keeps our message circling around. We have 18,000 people that follow us on Facebook. I have 5,000. So all of a sudden we've got 23,000 people that we can engage. And as a business owner, I want to take advantage of that opportunity and reach out to them. So when we're on location at Caldwell Brand Source Store, we're not just talking on radio, but now we're going to repost that. Now it reaches 23,000 people more, and ultimately at the end of the day, hopefully that retailer says, hey, great job, my sales increased by 12% this month, and I had you guys out at our place. So I combine them, whether it's right or wrong. I don't expect my staff to, and our team at work. It's up to them. But I think as a business owner and as a manager, you are kind of watching a little bit, like I check them to see what they're doing, what they're posting, because I don't want it to be inappropriate. That is something said that an advertiser would say, man, this one staff member you got is a little, so you don't want that to happen. So, and the same thing, you're just kind of checking a little bit. I'm comfortable either way. If they wanted to do just their personal and separate, if you want to combine them together, bonus. I think both have value.
Yeah. And yet, Chris McLeod still works at the radio station. I don't know. You talk about that one guy.
Yeah.
If Chris, you're watching, I'm just kidding.
He's good. I follow him once in a while.
You follow him once in a while. Good guy. No, I'm just teasing, just giving him a hard time. So 2020, looking ahead for this year, the next 5 years, what do you think is the biggest opportunity for radio, local media, the whole industry, if you want to go that large? What do you think? Ooh, I have faces of look and thought on this one.
I think the growth through streaming and the Alexa part, I'm seeing more and more people listen that way, that they're telling the radio station to play their favorite radio station. So that's happening more and more, and embracing that so that we know as a radio station that it's not just on your dial, that what frequency you are, but there's so many different ways that you can listen to radio. I mean, like when you can listen to us on TV Kojiko or your TV. You can stream us. You can get the app and listen to us. You can listen to us just by standing outside our studio, or you can listen to us on 99.1. I mean, so there's just so we try to embrace all those, and I think that's why radio has done well, because it wasn't just, there was a newspaper, and then now there's online newsprint. So we've got a few other extra ways that people can get our content, and I think we've embraced that really well in radio, and I think that's why we're still constant. We're the only medium that, TV's fragmented, print is struggling, trying to figure out where they work and how online is going to work for them. Whereas I think radio stayed constant because we've embraced those changes as they've happened.
Yeah, I think it's been an evolution where things start to fall off, other things gain, and Greg's right. I agree that the next thing, 2020 and beyond, is smart speakers, engaging people where they are, so that they don't have to find a radio to listen to us. I mean, who's buying a radio for in their house or in their office anymore? They're listening online. So it's making sure that you put the investment and the time into making sure that your stream is as good as what the FM frequency puts out.
You can circle people back in. So we talked about social media. So if you post on social media that you're about to do a contest coming up at 7:35, we can make that social media now redirect people back to listening to the radio. So if they're online and they weren't maybe listening to the radio, maybe all of a sudden we picked up a few thousand listeners because we've said, hey, coming up at 7:35, we're going to give away a trip to the Azores. You've got to be listening. Well, if you got that post, then how am I going to do that? I'm going to stream, I'm going to get my app on my phone, or I'm going to listen to the radio. So we can circle people back to radio through the social media, and we can draw them to us. So that's probably one change that's happening as we go along, that make the social media work back to people listening to you.
Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say embrace technology, embrace all of that stuff. And I think that's how you survive in this day and age. And I think that's what radio, for the most part, has been able to do. And has been able to do it with success and local. I mean, we can't say that enough. If you're not local, then if you're not talking about and engaging with your community, then there's a problem. Yeah. So you can have as many, or in those cases, you would probably have as little people on social media because you're not talking about what's relevant and what they're interested in. So, sure. Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to mention, Walter? I'll throw it over to you. If there are any additional thoughts on these.
No, the only thing I really would like to just kind of finish off with is the fact that we've been in this business for a number of years. I mean, CFCO over 90 years old, so it's had some staying power. And I mean, even CFCO has evolved over the years and continues to evolve and uses everything that we've talked about here today. So, I mean, radio has staying power. Local radio has staying power. And I think that, as long as you keep focused on local, look at new technologies, which as a company we invest in, because that is our future. And if you stay where you are today, you're not going to be here in the future. So, and relationships. It's about building relationships in the community and engaging in the community.
Very fair. Greg?
Yeah, I think where we are now, and I think our footprint that we have on the community, I want to continue to grow that. I mean, there's more that we can do. I mean, once you stop getting engaged and sharing stories of what's happening in the community with people, then you're going to lose. I mean, just when you think you can kind of take your foot off the gas and think, I'm just going to coast a little bit here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you somebody will pass you. So you've still got to always look ahead. Don't stop what you're doing. There's more that we can do. There's more community involvement we can do. There's more, charities that we can help and assist with, and so that people know who we are. I want people to know that we're a community-minded radio station that doesn't just talk the talk, but we walk the walk. That we're ready to get our hands dirty and to get in there, and we've seen that. We've got great examples from the Union Gas team that they do that, right? They give, but then they also get dirty. Tech Savvy does the same thing. That they it's a company that's involved in the community, but they really show that they are. So that's where I see us going forward, embracing the changes that are happening, opportunities that are there with social media and allowing people to, use our social media so we can help get their message out. Doing that now, we've taken another step to billboards where we're now selling, highway billboards. So we're not just a one facet media. We're radio, we're billboards, we're social media, we're online advertising. I mean, those things, to know that you can sell those, that those have value, and just to give ourselves other opportunities, right? I mean, there's nothing worse than sending somebody to another company that doesn't reside in this community. That I want to make sure that they're shopping local, and keeping that focus of, like Walter said, local, local, local. I think that's what you'll see with most radio stations that are successful. They're involved locally, and I think small market radio still has an unbelievable growth value. I think the larger markets like the Montreal, Torontos, and Vancouvers, they're struggling a little bit, right? Because they're not engaged in the community.
It's a whole different environment and a whole different market. When you're in a small market like this, I can walk down the street, you can walk down the street, and you really you're engaging with your listeners, but you're connecting with people in the community that you can easily turn around and go right on the air with it. Versus in a major market like a Montreal situation, well, you're not there. There's a lot of noise there, and it's not as easy to turn that around. It's turnkey. It's very easy. I mean, Greg can walk off the street. I can walk off the street and go, okay, we're going to talk about this right now, and it's very. You can turn it around on a dime.
Yeah. I have to say, I love seeing all of your vehicles out in the community. You see them around. You don't just see
I drove
them
one
in
here
Chatham.
today.
Drove one here today, but you don't just see them in, say, Chatham. You see them across Chatham-Kent, and that's I think that's a great representation of the fact that you're out in the whole region. It's across everything, because there's that concern of, it's only just one community. It's only just this place. I love seeing it out in the Blenheims and the Merlins and all of these great things out there. So well done on that point.
Yeah, thanks.
Love seeing you out there doing that. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate both of you coming in to chat about this. I know, as I said at the start, it's an industry that's gone through some disruption, some big changes, some changes for the better, changes that weren't anticipated, but that's part of being in business. I think is doing your best to plan for what you can't see, but you think about it. So thank you both for coming here and the open, honest chat about it. It was great. I'll make sure to post links to all of the different radio stations that in the comments for this, and thank you again. So,
Okay,
Thanks.
appreciate it,
Andrew.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Andrew.
and thank you for watching Chatham-Kent. We'll see you later.